Hello. I was hesitant to come on because I didn't get a chance to actually listen to the presentation. So don't ask
Oh,
me
that's
questions
right.
about it.
Well, you're always welcome. You're always welcome.
Okay.
Um, so let's see. Laura and Lillian and Trinka and Susan G. and I are all on committees together for the Women's Foundation. Susana Rios, are you a visitor or a member of the Women's Foundation?
Um, I'm not. Where I was connected because I was invited to this forum, and I work for the Idaho Women Business Center statewide.
Oh,
So for
wonderful.
me, it's important that I connect and see what each community is doing and how we can also participate and assist
So glad to
the
have you
community in
join us.
Blaine County.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Louisa, she is one of the names that we brought up that said she might be a good board member, but she doesn't live in the valley. So we said, well, I don't know.
Oh, okay. It's wonderful to have you join us tonight. And Marcia Liebig is a former president of the Women's Foundation. Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Louisa.
And Jean runs the Hunger Coalition. And Nathan, we don't see you or hear you, but we'd love to.
Yeah, hi, Nathan Harville, Blaine County Housing Authority. I just was interested just to kind of see where the discussion can go further. Let's see if I can start my video here.
It's nice to have you log on here. We were saying, and I want to hear from, what everybody's reactions are. Some of us have been very involved in the last few months talking to a number of people in the community about the realities out there, and essentially we had an impression that there was much more of a sense of crisis in at least with a lot of families and a lot of residents of our valley than might have come across tonight. And so I don't need to do the talking here. So Nathan, were you able to hear the whole thing?
I was, and really appreciated the insight that the panel offered. I was really, I think, I'm terrible with names, so I didn't write the names down, but it was mentioned toward the end that all of the deferments that we've had during the course of the pandemic with regard to housing, mortgages, student loans, different bills here that have been essentially pulled during this outbreak, that those are all going to be coming due at some point. And we've seen a lot of this with the Housing Authority. Our waiting list is ballooned up to about nearly 200 people. Normally we run about half that in good times. So we are seeing a real, I think really a gathering storm that's coming up, and maybe we're not essentially maybe not as prepared to meet that just because of the limited resources that are available. But I thought the presentation was excellent. I do think there's this real sense of urgency to kind of with almost the post-pandemic sort of response financially for a lot of households here.
When you say 200 people are on a waiting list, is that waiting for housing or waiting for rent relief?
Waiting for housing. As far as rent relief is concerned, we actually established a 501c3 foundation to provide relief of up to $500 for each individual or for each household. And we've been coordinating with the charitable fund to basically try and sort of collaborate and triangulate that relief to people that they're also helping, so that we can maximize those dollars. We're seeing with the expiration of the eviction moratorium and different things of that nature that a lot of people who we've already helped previously are kind of coming back in because you know, things have not right-sided as far as their situations are concerned yet.
In the gathering storm, you know, what do you think is possible for any kind of relief of you know, the worst consequences of people not having a place to live?
That's a good question. You know, we've seen you know, different sort of different programs here come from the national level. You know, $600, I mean, it's not a lot to help you know, make rent. You know, so I think further action on the federal level is going to be helpful, even some action at the state level. And then you know, some of the actions that have been taken by the Anjani mentioned the partnership that the county entered into with the charitable fund to bring some of that relief, some funds for some of that rental relief, you know, locally. And a lot of what we're seeing is, you know, Idaho Housing actually had a fund set up there, but they had a lot of stipulations and qualifications that a lot of people within the valley who needed the assistance didn't qualify for. So what we've tried to do, and I think that the charitable fund has also done this as well, and not trying to speak for them, but we've been referring people to Idaho Housing. The Idaho Housing Fund is not something that they can have access to. Then we take on that role and try to provide the relief that we can. And really, it just comes down to a matter of money and funding and needing enough here to help meet that need. And as I said, I think in the chat, we've helped about 20 families during this time. And right now, you know, we just got this started, and we've just been kind of doing it almost on the fly. And you know, we have funding here to help probably another 20, you know, at this point. And then as more donations roll in for things of that nature, you know, seeing what we can do to make a positive impact, and again, to coordinate those efforts with other partners here within our community.
Do you know the size of the homeless population in the county? Are there?
I don't have the statistics in front of me. Typically, homeless numbers are done through a point in time count that's coordinated by the Housing and Urban Development U.S. HUD, and that's done through a continuum of care. And I believe our continuum of care is based out of Twin Falls. And so what that does is it aggregates all of the homeless within that particular area. So that would include us, Twin Falls, and different areas like that. Because of the small population of our community, we wouldn't be able to necessarily get an accurate number as far as that's concerned. What we have seen here within our organization, a lot of interest in folks using the Look Tower Lodge, which we have available for temporary housing for folks. We've got that, you know, running at almost full capacity, and just, you know, trying to do what we can with the resources we have to meet that needs. But you know, sometimes it's definitely an uphill climb.
What is the capacity of the of your temporary housing?
Our temporary housing, we have the count right here. We have 10 rooms that we usually make available to folks for use. And those are basically, it's an old hotel, so it's got a single bed or a double bed. No kitchen facilities or anything like that. So it's just kind of one of those better than sleeping in your car or camping.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Lillian, last year the school district, this is before COVID, had estimated there were between 75 and 90 students in the school system who were homeless before COVID.
Meaning they were bunking with other people, couch surfing, sleeping in their car.
Sleeping in their car, you know, without any official residence. Yeah, that was before COVID. Any other things that panelists touched on tonight that struck anybody as either new information or information that they wanted more elaboration on.
I wanted to, we've talked a lot in our task force about how the inequities are apparent more profoundly during COVID. And, maybe you can address this a little bit, Nathan and Jean and Sally, who are all closer to the ground, maybe Susanna too. But we can address this charitably with aid and assistance and a humanitarian response that will alleviate, immediate hunger and pain. But we can also address this systemically. And the one thing that just came to mind, it's certainly not remote learning and work have pointed to the importance of connectivity and the digital divide we've been aware of for a long time, but now it's really an essential service. It's not an optional service just so you can download Netflix. You're not going to learn if you can't get the internet. Just like so what are some of the more structural changes that can be made at the state level that can address those kinds of things? And obviously connectivity is probably one of the easier ones. But it's not a right to have housing.
Yeah.
Could be.
This is Sally. I might address just the connectivity piece. There is some brighter news on that front. It doesn't help yet with the monthly cost, but high-speed internet is coming to Cary because of a federal grant program that they successfully applied for. So the wiring, if you will, or the physical accessibility is improving. From there, I think it depends a lot, the vendors having some incentive, but short of that, I think it's our community making a commitment to underwrite as we can through the financial assistance programs like Blaine County Charitable or others to make sure people know they can get this service and aren't stuck thinking that they're out of marginalized.
Mm-hmm.
The governor, in his State of the State priorities for this year, one of his topics focused on broadband in underserved areas. So there may be some of what he talked about that you may not want to support, but you may want to support where he's headed with infrastructure and including broadband expansion in the state.
I think after everything with COVID, I could see the expansion all over the state, and not just the state, all over the U.S. And knowing that there's such a need for this. Things have changed.
Yeah.
Things like telemedicine, there's no going back from that either. That's going to become normal for people who even are ambulatory and can get where they need to go. It's just going to be more cost effective for certain types of care to deliver it that way. I was going to raise the issue of language. I think we have a long way to go to understand how to communicate with people for whom English is not their first language. It's not just a matter of putting things up in translation. I think Ruby did a good job of talking about some people don't even know the technology they're trying to learn and use is giving them instruction in English. And that's sort of stops them dead in their tracks. It's so discouraging. A government form where you're trying to apply for something, maybe it's been translated, but some of the language, the terminology isn't even relevant or familiar. So I think we really need to jump to the other side perspective and not sort of take the traditional Anglo-white perspective and just try and flip it into a Spanish version. We have to come at it from the other direction. What's the best method for communication? There was some discussion earlier, like video and personal teaching. That has to be part of it. It can't just be figured out for yourself online.
Yeah.
My experience with Idaho Women's Business Center, I do come with business owners that do not know how to even turn on a computer, let alone how to download the Zoom application. And once we get to that part, it's like, okay, you download the Zoom application, but even at that, the audio, the video, how do we do that? And it has to be somebody that has a lot of patience, that could just wait and make our clients feel comfortable and feel that they're a burden. And for me, I tried really hard when somebody needs that kind of assistance, and it's just waiting patiently. And sometimes it kind of makes it complicated because I have another call with somebody else that can't, and I'm really stretching myself very thin. But we have to start somewhere. And how do we do it? Just make them feel confident. You can do it. I'm going to be here, and we're going to hold hands until we get the Zoom, and then you make them feel very empowered by learning how to download Zoom and how to use it.
Well, I was very touched by Brad's dual lingual elementary school. I mean, you know, that is, to me, amazing. Is that very an isolated example, or do we have many such schools in Idaho?
No, we don't have many such schools. We have a few, and this has been here. The dual language program has been alive and well here for a while, but now it's concentrated in the Altura school. I think it's a majority Spanish-speaking population in the school, but one of the interesting things about it is that, of course, in the beginning stages of learning, the kids really look like they're not learning very much, and their achievement scores are low because they're not proficient in either language. But apparently the justification for keeping it going is that if the kids stick with it through middle school, that by middle school, the early gaps are somehow overcome because the kids have had enough instruction in each language that they have proficiency that enables them to learn academically in each language. But if you look at the early reading scores at Alturas, it looks like nobody knows how to read.
Really?
It's quite striking. Yeah.
I'm going to jump in a little bit. This is Kat. Sorry, I'm a behind the scenes one tonight, but my children actually go to Alturas.
Oh, they do?
And yeah,
Cool.
and Luisa, what you're referring to, is kind of one of those things that a parent has to recognize when they enroll their children in school, right? That those first, when I first heard of it, was up through about third to fifth grade is where you'll see your kids maybe performing less than the average at other schools because they're learning in two languages, right? So you're not spending your full day practicing your English acquisition or practicing your Spanish acquisition. You're practicing both. And your second language can't outperform your first language. So that's why even though you may have native English speakers, they still have to do English language arts, right? Just like we all did. If you have native Spanish speakers, they're still doing the Spanish language arts as well, because as you improve your first language, you don't automatically improve your second language, but you won't ever outperform your first language, right? You have to work on both. And there actually is a pretty good, they've gotten more of a balance between English and native Spanish speakers at the school. When they first started out, it was more the neighborhood school of Woodside, but there's become a better balance over the years, getting closer to 50-50, which has been nice to see for us, for many reasons why we chose to send our kids to Alturas. And as you saw, Principal Brad is amazing. And the staff that he works with, I can't commend them enough for all that they have done this year, COVID and non-COVID related. So it's pretty interesting. But yeah, when you see those first test grades come back, you're kind of like, wait, I thought our kids were smart. Like, oh, but wait, they're learning in two languages. So if you're learning math this year in English, next year all of your math will be taught in Spanish.
Whoa.
Yep. It's not, oh, I get to learn it half of the time in English and half the time in Spanish, because otherwise you'll just wait to learn in your native language. This way it's nope. If you're going to learn it, you're going to learn it in whatever language we teach you, which I love.
Oh, that's fun, Kat, to know that your kids are in that
Oh,
school.
yeah.
One of the issues that I talked about more with the panelists in our rehearsal than came out tonight, and this is relevant for Jean, who's here joining us and from the Hunger Coalition, was the issue that they spoke to around connectivity within the different communities and coordination and building inter-community relationships. You know, the issue is, how can we bring that about, and who are the players? And when I think, well, how can we bring that about? You know, more dialogue between our white and our brown communities, more dialogue between our North and South Valley, more dialogue between our very wealthy people and the 40 to 50% of our families, working families, who are one paycheck away from disaster. And our community is only going to thrive if we have that sense of working together. And it was very nice that our panelists talked about that, and were very positive about the ways that people are working together more in the pandemic, and nonprofits are coordinating their efforts, and that's great. But the other side of that is that I've heard so much about the need for to have different or new roles for people, or social structures, or something that accelerate that bridge building process. And I do think of the new facility at the Hunger Coalition as potentially offering a wonderful opportunity to have a lot of these needs that people have all kind of connected together and addressed in one place, or at least where people would go and find out, in addition to what they can learn from St. Luke's Community Health, where they can get a consult, where they can get assistance, where they can learn about something. So I don't know, Jean.
Yeah, I mean, we're super excited about the opportunities that our new project is going to open up to the community. And I'm sorry I missed the presentation. I don't know if the Hunger Coalition was mentioned, but for sure, we have seen a strengthening of our partnerships and our collaborations during COVID. And I know that we've developed new partnerships that those groups are excited to come into our community partner space in our building when we're able to get into it. And that's getting pushed out a little bit farther, but sometime this spring we hope to be in. And then of course it all depends on when it's safe to invite others into the space. But ultimately that's our dream for this building, is to have a place where people can connect and provide wraparound services. So it's not just people coming for food, but they're going to be able to have St. Luke's Center for Community Health and all of our other partners there to support them as well. And we have great hopes and aspirations for what we can accomplish at that place together. So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And also, as Sally mentioned, as you mentioned in just the note you put in the chat, there are so many nonprofits here who are doing innovative things. And one of the new enterprises I just read about with the 100 Men Who Care is the Neighbors Helping Neighbors initiative. Isn't this a new thing? I think Herbert Romero is involved in this, and what he's trying to do, I'm guessing it's him. I think it's one of his enterprises, but he's going into neighborhoods and getting people to form a sense of community and building community, sort of a community organization within little neighborhoods around the valley, which I think is a lovely idea. And
That's
other
been one of
things-
the benefits of the pandemic, if I can say. You know, we've had to be creative. A lot of the nonprofits have had to work together, and I think it's reduced and maybe broken down a lot of barriers and silos that may have existed beforehand, because we're all kind of in this big crisis right here, and not one of us has all of the resources we need in order to in order to meet the need. And I think we've been forced really to collaborate more. We've been forced to, and make our communications better. And really, we've had to take a look at the differences and the diversities within our community in order to meet the needs. And I think it was said earlier, and I can't remember. I apologize. I can't remember who said it, but so many times when something happens, we try to approach it from like the white Anglo-Saxon sort of method of viewing the world and trying to solve it through that lens, and saying, well, that's not everyone's lens, and meeting people in a way that's effective to them, that actually provides the help, that actually nurtures them and actually empowers them to recover and to be resilient during this time.
Yeah. Well said. Well, maybe that's a good note to end on tonight. Susanna, so nice to meet you. And now I remember that I think Susan Passavoy had talked with you as part of our, investigating what really goes on in our community. So thank you for joining us. Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you.
Thank you
I
for
would
this.
like to just add some information about housing. I did put in the chat box with the earlier gathering, Community Council of Idaho, which they're located in Twin Falls. I know they have rental assistance right now, and their number is 208-734-3336, 734-3336. And I know that a lot of the CARES funding has depleted, but I think with the new funding, I know that before, family health services, the clinics in Twin Falls and in the also Cassia County area, they had funding for rental assistance as well. And again, that's family health services. And then you, Nathan, I think you mentioned Idaho Housing, and there was some funding. I know that the funding finished in December, but I'm thinking a lot of the nonprofit organizations will be receiving funding. South Central Community Action has rental, and again, it could be that it's been depleted now, but those are 4 different places that can get rental assistance. I do know Community Council of Idaho. We just had a panel with them last week, and they have mortgage assistance to help with the mortgage. So that was new for me. So you would have to contact their main office, and they're located in Caldwell. Or if you call that same number that I gave you, the 734-3336, I'm sure that they will be able to connect you with their central office. And that would be with Corinne Gonzalez.
Corinne Gonzalez.
Corinne Gonzalez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
Well, let's hope that with resources like that, that more families are going to just make it through one way or another. And but as Brad was saying, coming out of this is going to take more than some vaccinations, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this conversation, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and let us all be mindful of what we can all do individually and collectively going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Louisa.
Thanks so much.
Night.
Well done.
Thanks, Lily.
Thank you.